I'm going to just kick it right off with Cod Theatre Company, Howard's Junior Theater, and my dear friend Susan Kossoff. So a warm round of applause for Howard's Junior Theater.
Do I still have to introduce myself?
Yes.
I'm Susan Kossoff, and I'm representing the Cape Cod Theatre Company and the Howard's Junior Theater. And I'm accompanied by Nina Schussler, who is the artistic director, who I'm hoping will pipe in. I'm quite sure she will pipe in. This is the theater, and I'm going to provide a little bit of context for you. The theater itself is 68 years old, and this is actually its second home that you just saw. They produce 10 shows each season and provide a year-round educational program. It started originally as a children's theater, producing shows in the summer, and about 22 years ago, with Nina at the helm, became a year-round theater. We have two old buildings. One is in the center of town and primarily serves as a rehearsal hall for some kinds of experimental work or black box work, and also for classes. And then the theater itself houses a stage house and a technical workshop, and a space for classes. There are 3 full-time staff. There are additional people used on a per show basis, and there's a working board of directors, and I would identify access at this point, and I think that the user experts who came to for the site visit would agree that we have a kind of individualized accessibility program. In other words, when there are requests or when we know that things are going to happen, the theater tries to provide them. But there has been, over the years, some attempt at access, but we not enough so that we were very confident of the site visit. In fact, people were very nervous about it. The long-term goals, I would say, are to institutionalize accessibility and to create a culture of access. And those both guide our short-term goals, but also what we hope to achieve. And I think really constitute what I would call our project. So the short-term goals, in order to institutionalize accessibility, is that we need to really bring the board on board. And we want to start by doing that with a presentation and inviting some people, both users and also people who are knowledgeable in the field, people like Charles Baldwin, to come and present to the board. And out of that, we hope to create an access committee, because with a 3-person staff, as you might know, it's hard to address all the issues that need to be addressed. And then the other is to, according to the report that we received, the comprehensive report we received from NACOM, would be to not only fix or address the issues raised on the website, but also to look at our website in general. And I don't know, Nina, if you want to say anything about that or not.
I will.
Okay. And then the other short-term goal is really to address what Nina has identified as quick fixes. And there were lots and lots of them in the report that we received from the site visit. And these are just some of the examples of how fixable they are. For example, here, the ramp edge at the theater seating, it was simply suggested that we identify where the ramp begins so that people will be able to adjust and not trip. Another one was the placement of the signs for the bathrooms, that if we make them within people's line of vision, that it would be helpful. Another was that to try to take the bicycle that's now attached to this handicap parking sign and have a bike rack, and then perhaps have a couple more handicap accessible parking spaces. Another was that this, we left the wording in for this one, that the spiral staircase, which is in the back of the stage, leading up to the dressing rooms above, didn't have a cane detection barrier, and the spiral shape of the stairs also makes it more difficult for a person who is blind or has low vision to predict the location of each step. And so this was another one, the stairs leading to theater seating. The railing simply needed to be extended for people. So, and this one was Bella, the guide dog, was sliding into the seats in front of her, and all we need to do for that is to get some carpet squares, provide some carpet squares, so that won't happen. This is the route from the lobby to the accessible seating, and it's dim, so we just need to make it brighter. So as you can see, and here's the final one, I think. It was suggested, these are the main doors into the theater, and because they're white and the building's white, it was suggested that perhaps we paint them blue, another color, so that it would be easy to identify it. And again, not a big deal, but something that is important and could make a big difference. So here's what they said: consider painting the exterior door a different color. Next steps. Those are the steps upstairs at the theater. Nina, do you want to say anything?
Well, very well. Thank you, Sue. I'm Nina Schessler, producing artistic director. These stairs actually have a beautiful poem on them, and it was easy to paint because they're so high. They're totally illegal, but they're very literary, so that's all I can say. We really need an elevator in the theater to get to our second floor, but we always make accommodation for people who can't go to a class on the second floor. We always make sure that the class can be held in our more accessible studio space or in our theater itself. We were nervous about the site visit because I felt that we were probably physically the most inaccessible place around, and we've had several disasters that we've fixed over time. Like initially the front doors that are now white that we're going to paint blue, they went out, and one guy, and there wasn't that deck there. There were just steps going down to the ground. And one guy, an old guy, wanted to go out and smoke a cigarette during intermission, and his aide actually, let him do that. But then she went to get him, and she pushed the door open, and he fell down, and we were sued as a result. And so, we put a deck around, we put the right kind of doors on. So over time, there is a real desire to be more physically accessible. In terms of access, our staff, our volunteers are all trained to give full access to people coming and to have accommodation. I think in terms of walking in the building and feeling the vibration of the people who work there, the people who volunteer there, the people who perform there, who are of all abilities, really, there is a great feeling of welcome and warmth. But we have a long way to go, and a lot of it has to do with money. We just received a grant for $23,000 to do the backyard of the theater, because although about 10 years ago we spent about $100,000 redoing the whole back of the building, putting in a new parking lot, which is, major. It's so the parking is very accessible, but getting from the parking lot to the theater, there was a pathway that was not well lit, and if you didn't see it, you would walk straight across and you would come to the edge of the earth and fall down about 3 feet. And we just had a playwright in residence who, he almost like, bought the farm, because he almost fell off of that area. So now, we are designing that whole, spending a lot of money designing the whole route to come, with a ramp right down into the ramp going into the theater. So we do have ramps, we do have, probably, and at our studio space, we put in a big handicap, accessible bathroom. It's a beautiful bathroom, and we put in a ramp, and we made that space much more accessible. The problem with that building is, for the second floor, you have to go outside and around. There's no access to the second floor from the inside of that building. So you either have to go up the fire escape, which is frightening because it's made out of wood for a fire escape, or you have to go outside the other way up the building. I mean, we are in really old buildings, and we tried so hard to make it work, but we have a long way to go. And I'm so glad to be part of this process, because as I get older, you sometimes don't realize what the needs are until they happen to you. And for me, with my vision, certainly, I need to have, a higher font in our programs. For our website, I need that website to become more accessible. So there are many, many things that we have on the docket to fix about our company. Not to say that we don't want all these things, and that we're not working towards them, because we are diligently trying to make that happen. It's a beautiful theater. People love it. They remember it. People come into the front door and they say, it's 68 years old, so we're 3 generations. So, now grandmothers are coming in and saying, it smells just the same, as when I was a kid. And, so there's this wonderful feeling and vibe about the theater, but we really do need to make it work for everybody. And we try to do that. So, any questions?
Well, I think in New England, the nature of old buildings.
Charles, you're brilliant.
The nature of old buildings, not having the money to redo them, whether that is a historic site or just, again, the nature of old buildings. This is something that many of us in the cultural sector are aware of. And is there an idea for, even if it's the 5, 10, 20 years down the pike? You mentioned an elevator, and that's a big project. Mm-hmm. Is there this long range capital plan?
Well, we really need a lot of money, and we need angels, and we're working on that. We're part of a will, so hopefully some of that money will go towards it. We're receiving 20% of my friend's estate, and I think she loved the theater because she loved what we do at the theater. In terms of performances, actors, auditions, all those are totally open, and we make accommodations all the time for people who want to be part of our programming. In terms of a long-range plan, I'm not sure what that will look like. Here's the thing. We got a Mass Culturals Facility Project grant for $14,000, and we had to turn it down for technical assistance because to retrofit our building, we would have had to close for a year. We would have had to raise $1 million to pass the architectural board. So this was a major, and we decided we weren't, our capitalization, we weren't in a position to do that. We knew we wouldn't raise $1 million in a year. Some places can, we couldn't. So even though we worked very hard and diligently to get that grant, we couldn't accept it because we knew that we could not, raise enough money to retrofit the building and close and be able to do our programming. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place. We have to make incremental steps towards accessibility, and hopefully, eventually there'll be enough funding to really, move our theater for a year and get that building at a place to modernize it. We'd have to rip out all those steps. We just had another disaster on the spiral with a staff member, my props person went down the spiral with a can of paint, Mary Beth. The whole time she's saying to herself, be careful on these steps, be careful on these steps. She stepped off the bottom step and broke 4 bones in her ankle. She missed the bottom step. So, that was a workman's comp claim. So, which is great, but at the same time, and at that point we had already put like tape and everything to, but it was just one of those things. And
But I think that the thing that was heartening about this process was that so many of the kinds of things that we could do immediately became apparent to us, and I think that it eased us into thinking we can do a lot of this. And so that was tremendously encouraging. I also think that a lot depends on educating our board that this is really an essential element of who we are. So I'm hopeful, and I think it's a question of making a commitment and acting on it in all the ways that we can. I don't think that fixing our website is a huge deal. It's
no, it's not.
So, we'll do what we can do. And
Well, this is why I really appreciated your candor, Nina, because some of this starts with this candid assessment. Because as you look forward and the strategies on what you need to do, whether that's incremental, the elevator is a goal, but maybe looking at what Access can provide means Oddfellow Hall isn't where you end up. Again, but being really strategic and honest about it, because it is sometimes daunting when the project is so huge, and to remember those incremental changes can make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.